Are you constantly battling feelings of guilt, believing you've done something wrong, when in reality, you might just be experiencing a much deeper emotion that's keeping you stuck? What if I told you that misunderstanding this crucial difference could be sabotaging your personal growth, your relationships, and even your mental health? Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Fitzgerald. In addition to my dissertation research about the nature and impact of shame, I've helped more than 6,000 clients over the past 25 years to overcome the impact of trauma-induced internalized shame on their quality of life, their relationships, and their spirituality. Have you ever tried to fix what you thought was a problem, only later to realize that you misidentified the real problem? I've done that and discovered that fixing the wrong problem made things even worse. In this video, we'll uncover the unintended impact when internalized shame is misidentified as guilt. That's a very common mistake that affects millions of us without realizing it. And I discovered that I was making that mistake, and I find the same thing is true for many of my clients. Finding that out has been a key transforming way that we can overcome and let go of our personal struggles with past negative experiences. It also leads to greater understanding and compassion for the struggles of other people. I believe it can be enlightening and transforming for you as well. The mislabeling of shame as if it is really guilt is a complex phenomenon. Misidentifying them can significantly impact your personal well-being. It can impact your interpersonal relationships, and it can impact the effectiveness of any therapeutic interventions that you might try. So, why and how does mislabeling of well, to understand what the word internalized means in the term internalized shame, it's important to understand it's a process by which shame becomes a core part of a person's identity and their self-concept, rather than just being a temporary emotional experience. When shame is internalized, it's no longer just a response to some specific situation where there's humiliation, but it becomes a pervasive sense of yourself that is so fundamentally flawed and inadequate that you will feel like dying if you were exposed for all eyes to see. Whenever we experience a sudden negative event, our neurological system, our unconscious, perceives it as a risk to our personal safety. It acts automatically to shift our emotional state from a normal, adaptive emotional state, or from a fight-flight state, down to a freeze and collapse state. And this shift always occurs outside our conscious awareness. We become aware of it after it's happened, but it's characterized by feeling shaken and unstable, a confusion as to what's really happening. We have a sensation of our legs just crumbling. We have a feeling of the bottom falling out. That describes that freeze collapse state. This abrupt change in our physical body amplifies our personal sense of powerlessness, and it heightens our perceived sense of risk to our safety. It can trigger an urgent reaction to know why it happened and who's at fault. And even if we intellectually accept that the shift to freeze collapse occurs unconsciously outside of our choices, the most natural thing is to try to find out who to blame. And that someone to blame may be ourselves, or it may be something that just happened. And the internal dialogue goes something like this: I should have controlled it. It's my fault. I shouldn't have let that happen. It's my fault. You should have controlled it. It's your fault. And it's my fault for trusting you. You shouldn't have let that happen. It's your fault. And it's my fault for trusting you. They should have done more to prevent it. It's their fault, and it's my fault for trusting them. They shouldn't have done that to cause it. It's their fault, and it's my fault for trusting them. Notice how a specific negative incident can, with our own judgment, loop around to become it's my fault and I'm guilty. Then it can become internalized and morph into a painful global judgment. It's my fault, and I'm an idiot for being so stupid. I'm terrified of anybody finding out. Just like the internalization of shame is a psychological defense mechanism aimed at regaining a sense of control, when we reframe that experience as something we should have prevented, we're attempting to move it from the powerless freeze collapse state to an aggressive fight flight state. If there's one state of shame that we all hate most, it's probably powerlessness. The emotional payoff in mislabeling shame as guilt is the creation of an illusion of restoring control and a sense of safety. It allows us to believe that we could have prevented the negative experience, and we can prevent them from happening in the future. While this defense mechanism may provide temporary relief, it can become ultimately a hindrance to genuine emotional growth and processing. Long-term consequences of mislabeling shame as guilt can lead to becoming stuck in a frozen emotional state. We have difficulty returning to normal, adaptive emotional state. And we perceive the relaxed state that's normal to be too risky. And being stuck in a fight, flight emotional state seems better. But at what cost? So what's the impact of mislabeling shame as guilt? We have interpersonal misunderstandings. We're looking for somebody to blame. And when somebody tries to offer us a way to say, no, you're not to blame, we can talk them out of it because we're sure it must be our fault, because that gives us a sense of safety. In relationships, mislabeling can lead to miscommunication and unresolved conflicts. It also risks perpetuation of shame. Mislabeling can prevent individuals from addressing the root causes of the shame. We try to address the symptoms, but we avoid dealing with the root cause. It leads to ineffective coping. Addressing guilt when shame is the core issue can lead to ineffective coping strategies. And misidentification can lead to inappropriate treatment strategies, including mislabeling shame as false guilt. If there's anything that is shaming, it is labeling shame as false guilt. It's okay, you really didn't do anything wrong, you feel bad, so there's nothing to forgive. I guess you're just defective. You just have false guilt. Where do you go with that? Or misidentifying symptoms as the problem to fix. There's 12 specific symptoms I've identified resulting from internalized shame. If you see the video, you'll recognize many of those behaviors. To achieve a genuine healing and growth, it's crucial to recognize this pattern of being stuck in a fight-flight pattern or a freeze collapse pattern, and learn to differentiate between shame and guilt accurately. Have you noticed that lots of people, including professionals, tell you to just let it go, but really don't equip you to do just that? If you knew how, you wouldn't need them. For more than 25 years, I've been helping people discover their path to letting it go, finding grace for life and living way beyond the power of internalized shame, finding freedom to create the life they want rather than being stuck in the shoulds of the past. And I invite you, when you're ready to explore, check my website out, pauldfitzgerald.com.